Mahila. So let's talk about Romans 3. Um, in this section, Paul is talking to himself, okay? He is not in front of an authority or a crowd of people. He is writing down exactly what he is thinking, okay? So the the audible of his voice to himself, okay? So it starts off with not one is righteous, okay? Not one is righteous. And he talks about where it says the poison of the snake is under their lips. Their feet are swift to do evil. Destruction and misery is in their path. And so he says, this basically told us everything that we need to know for what I'm questioning right now. And so then he says, like he's asking himself, what is that the Jews that the Jews are of the circumcision? And they say, and he says, we establish the law by this. And this is a clear reference to Chase and the Gnome and the Coast Guard. It is a direct reference to it. It is the mushroom of the circumcision. So he says, well, by faith, because how shall we boast? How shall we boast? And he's like, no, it's just by faith. He's talking to himself. And he even says, when God takes vengeance on the sinners, how shall he do that? Because he says, I'm speaking as a man. And the point of it is that the sin, he says, we know from the law. Okay? So he ties all this together with the passage that he says is very important, that he puts in there of the asps under the lips, the poison, and their feet are swift to essentially slay a man or to do evil. And so of course he says it is by the faith that we do not boast, because he's using the boast as, wait a minute, take off the six. He's saying take off the six. And he says, okay, by faith, which is your clams casino, your moments by yourself. Okay? So that's just a broad way of putting it, but he says that Islam doesn't have sin. This is what he says. Because the way that he says it is that their circle of life is like an Ouroboros, because he uses the asps under the lips, and he says, well, they may lie and be funny when they lie, but they are doing everything that is everything that they are. Like he views Islam as they're without sin because you can't get them on anything. He's like, they're the people that, like, they may go to a dungeon, or they may, have to do a Brahma sacrifice, but like, they're always overcoming all of it. So he falls back and he says, wait a minute, like, okay, tell me what the Jews are doing. And so he puts in there, like, okay, well, basically the ones who were after the scribes and Pharisees have the circumcision. And he's like, so are we just saying we're San Onofre then? Like we're San Onofre, like we just get nuked out and we're not the warriors? So he says, no, this is the establishment. This is the establishment. And he uses Chase, Coast Guard, and the gnome, and the black eyes, and everything that means. So it's very cool the way that he does it in talking it through himself. He doesn't have anyone with him. He is alone, and he is talking it through, writing it down, and says, nay, by this way we are, like, he's expressing himself. He's putting it on paper. He's having a conversation with himself. Romans 3 is how you do that to be productive. And he says, God is the propitiation. That's what he says. So Romans 3 is how you can effectively have a conversation with yourself, with your music. He talks in the first of it, he's talking about the circumcision and says, well, what about the Sioux? The Sioux, Native Americans, the Sioux. And he says these women don't look like other natives. They're beautiful, and all the natives are beautiful, but these really look more Asian, or that they could be part Gentile. So that's how he starts it, and he says, wait, when I look at them and I think of my circumcision with the mushroom tip, like, okay, what if I don't have the scar on my willy of the red scar, like from when I was born? That, some of these guys in the field, they have that. So he says, like, okay, these women, if we are to inherit the virgins, and he's staying close to the Jews. He's not saying it's Islam. He says these women are in America, underground, or at the casinos on the reservation. And he says, okay, like, this is something that is my pastime, that I love these women, and to view them. And he says, okay, I'm viewing them like, am I a jock? Or like in the 50s, like, am I a jock, or am I one of these, like, he doesn't say Tom. He says, like, am I someone who watches but doesn't act on anything? So that's how he goes into the whole, like, the passage that he uses where he says, well, this covers everything. Let me break this down.